Can a podcast be made without sacrifice? This far into the project, I sure fucking hope so, but welcome everyone to Super Audio Robo Podcast Z. I'm Ark, that's Neff, and this is the show where we recommend you the finest mecha content for your cultural and artistic development.
Oh god, we are near the end of things, can you believe it? And we are saving all the heavy hitters, including today's show, which is one of the heaviest hitters. It's Giant Robo, the animation.
Literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
Some would probably be shocked that, wait, you're not saving this for the final episode?
Yeah, we have something else planned for the final episode. What is it? You'll have to find out yourself.
But for now, we have a seminal anime to talk about today. This is one that is like very near and dear to both of us.
Yeah, I think if you're a mecha fan or you love mechas in general, Giant Robo is one of those shows where it's like you've either heard about or watched. This is like one of the best in the genre, I feel.
It's one of the best to the point where like I even on occasion see it like crop up in discussions with like anime fans that aren't even necessarily that deep into the genre. It's just that good all around.
Yeah, so why don't we start off with the synopsis for this show, or this OVA?
Sure thing. In a future to come, the third energy revolution is ushered in by the creation of the Shizuma Drive, a renewable energy source that brings prosperity to mankind. But lurking in the background, two great powers clash. Big Fire, a secret organization with the goal of world domination, and the International Police Organization, commanding heroes from around the world to protect the peace from those who would bring destruction. And among these experts of justice is a young boy, Daisaku Kusama, who possesses the most powerful robot in all history, Giant Robo, a hero that will be instrumental in resolving the crisis that is soon to befall the entire world.
As you can see, there's quite a bit going on with the synopsis for the show.
Yeah, this is a pretty big ensemble cast of good versus evil.
Yeah, pretty much. It is, it takes a lot of inspiration from other, like, past works, but we'll get to that. We'll get to those inspirations soon.
Yeah, we might as well just go into the start of, like, the prehistory and just get to what the hell this is. So, Giant Robo, the animation. Or its full subtitle, The Day the Earth Stood Still. No relation to that other sci-fi story you may know of, but yeah. It is a 1992 super robot OVA. I guess technically produced by multiple like entities in a sense. I guess from what I was able to find, I guess like Phoenix Entertainment is like the name of the studio that was like I guess in charge of like the actual animation and production. I mean like Bandai was involved, but more important to that, it was directed by Yasuhiro Imagawa. Yeah, we're back to talking about the GOAT himself.
Yeah, it all comes back to him somehow.
Yeah, it's like we basically, well, like this podcast, we made it a goal to like have episodes where we talk about, I guess, the big three of his works, you know?
Yeah.
It could have been fourth if we included Tetsujin 28 Go, but that would have required like having even more on our list of like full shows that we needed to watch beforehand, or at least you would have needed to watch beforehand.
Yeah,
we kind of had we basically had like enough on our plates on both ends going into this project.
Yeah, I would love to watch it one day, but we didn't have enough time this year, unfortunately.
Fortunately, like pretty much the main three that everyone that is a fan of Imagama has likely seen at this point and recognized, you know, Shin Mazinger Z, G Gundam, and of course Giant Robo, arguably like I think still to his day his most seminal work.
Absolutely, definitely like one is the one he's probably the most popular for, or the most well known for.
Yeah, the project how it got off the ground though wasn't even like at its earliest inception wasn't even spearheaded by him. It was actually from like from a producer named Yasuto Yamaki. So I guess it was like basically kind of coming off of like a movie that was set in like in the space battleship Yamato series, and was like trying to like look for like a new project to get off the ground before kind of finding like, oh, like why not do one for Giant Robo, because Giant Robo is originally the work of one Mitsuteru Yokoyama, one of the old heads of like the manga industry from like way back, like the same generation of creators as the likes of like Shotaro Ishinomori and Go Nagai. Because especially for Mitsuteru Yokoyama, he was one of the earliest creators of works with giant robots. I mean, like, Giant Robo, it's obviously in the name, but this is the man that also made Tetsujin 28.
Yeah.
And Giant Robo in particular, was a manga and later a tokusatsu show that basically like aired at the same year that the manga started publication in 1967. And so like with that amount of time going into, an OVA that would eventually like basically start releasing episodes during the 90s, a lot of time passed that creators in the industry were like, they wanted to make something as like a tribute to like a fairly influential work.
Yeah, this is like, I guess you'd call these series like the granddaddy of like mecha shows. Like this is where all that started from in a way. And like, of course, like they grew up with these shows and they wanted to like pay tribute to them in a lot of ways.
And luckily for this project, Imagawa being involved was a huge blessing because he himself has like basically self-proclaimed himself as like a massive fan of Yokoyama. So that was already a good sign when he was like brought on board to like direct the project, which as far as scope initially wasn't all that huge. Like, I guess just because of the fact that Yamaki, obviously, like the previous project he had worked on was a movie. I guess the assumption for the team would have been like, oh, we're going to do like a lavish like feature film based on Giant Robo, but it actually ended up expanding even further and further to be like, I think it then went up to like 4 episodes or so. And then eventually landed on the 7 that we all know, because despite this like getting started in the 90s after the bubble economy literally burst, I guess Bandai didn't care either way, or like, here you go.
I don't know, but you know what? I'm glad things ended up the way they did with this OVA.
Because it wasn't just, the money from Bandai to make sure that this project would have like all like the love and care that it needed. But we mentioned like with Yokoyama's like one of like the classic mangaka of the time. Like obviously he is no longer of the living, but he was at least still alive during the production of this OVA. That like it's a stipulation that I think anyone at the time would have thought that seems oddly limiting. But for Imagawa, he managed to turn it into something that was like creatively liberating. And the stipulation in question was that this new OVA would not be allowed to use any of the characters that existed in the manga or the tokusatsu show. Like, aside from Giant Robo itself, and obviously, like, Daisaku Kusama, the main character, like, none of the other, like, human cast that was, like, in those previous works could come back for this. It sounds, on its surface, like, weirdly limiting. I mean, like, what's the point if you're trying to homage a previous work? But part of this is because I think from what I have read of like behind the scenes stuff regarding the original Giant Robo, I've always felt that there was a sense of like, compared to Tetsujin 28, which came before it, and obviously it was like the most impactful as far as like putting the idea of giant robots in the cultural consciousness in Japan. Giant Robo had like a lot of edits and changes to like what it originally wanted to be like in the manga, because Yokoyama was explicitly like is either him or his editor, maybe both, like initially not wanting it to be so close to like being like another Tetsujin in a sense. But between that and like and obviously the other changes and additions that were made with like the TV show, it's like, I guess there's like a sense that Yokoyama was still wanting to like have something done with Giant Robo that would not be such like a retread of something that already had to go through like a lot of edits and changes just for like, like editor or publication requests, as opposed to what he might have originally wanted the story to be. But regardless, Imagawa definitely took that as a sign to be like, well, like if we can't use those characters, can we use other characters like from the rest of your works? And apparently yes, because that is one of those things where like if you are someone that is like a Yokoyama super fan like Imagawa was, oh boy, this is Like, this is an ensemble cast of so many characters from that mangaka's other works. Some of them exactly as they are, others with slight modifications as necessary to like fit the scope of the story. But it's enough to be like, if you are familiar with those works, it is definitely a sight to behold, seeing like either major characters or just one-offs that will like show up in like a frame and then leave. And instead you'll just be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, even before Shin Mazinger Z like had that same idea of like reusing a lot of like characters from Go Nagai's other manga, like Imagawa would like mess with that idea first in this OVA.
Yeah, so like this is what makes like this OVA a special as well, is because it is a celebration of one man's work. Like, and I love how Imagawa just took like this limitation and just said, okay, I'll just take everything else then. We'll just toss everything else in instead. It's like, that's genius. That's fucking, I love it.
I love the boldness of Imagawa's ideas when like presented with like a certain situation. Like you could tell him coming up with this idea, you know, it's from like that it's coming from the same person who came up with the finale for G Gundam.
Yeah.
He's willing to take a big fucking risk, even though it was like, are people really gonna be into this? I don't know. I mean, at least in G Gundam's case, it sounded more like he was willing to like have his entire career tank if it did not go well.
I'm glad it didn't, but yeah, like he seems like a guy who takes a lot of big risks in his work, and I respect that.
And like with so many different characters, like this is kind of what leads to how I have seen like some like the discussions between people that like aren't deep into the mecha genre like we are, almost like they'll still watch Giant Robo and love it, but sometimes I feel like there's a bit of overthinking as to whether or not this still qualifies as like a robot anime because of just how many much more larger than life characters there are in this entire story, that like that there's only just one robot. That is like, does it really count though? And I'm like, yes. The robot is in the title.
It's literally like a main character in the show. This is a mecha anime. Just the answer is yes.
All the other superhuman freaks do not like diminish the presence or importance of Giant Robo, and the same goes in reverse. Like they all feel like part of a cohesive whole, which sounds impossible considering that this is a story and cast where the logic is basically anything goes.
Yeah, which sure does. Things sure do go in the show.
Oh man, yeah, and just for like 7 episodes where it still does, it's at times it feels like it's still not enough, but like for the story that they tell, it clearly is.
Yeah.
But regardless, like with Imagawa working on this and like plenty of other like animators and like other creatives in the anime industry working on this, I mean, we talked about the Big O a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
The director of that show was like a storyboard director and animator on this OVA. I think even Hideaki Anno, like he was either applying to be like an animator on this and got the job, or he didn't. I don't remember. It always seemed like almost to reflect the ensemble cast of like characters in the story that even the production staff was like attracting a lot of talent and that, you know, grew up with this stuff, like basically like trying to be like the biggest coming together of the then current generation of anime creators whose main inspiration was the thing that got them into the industry to begin with, you know?
Yeah, just like getting a lot of passionate people in one room to make like something that they love.
This was an anime that was nothing short of ambitious, that I think like you could say that not just like the episodes and the release they'd say itself qualifies as such, the entire production time could be seen as lasting nearly the entire decade, because obviously like the pre-production, like the earliest start for this project was like basically in the 90s, like right around like the start of like the, you know, the new era, going from the Showa to the Heisei era, with its first episode releasing on July 22nd, 1992. And remember, this is the first of 7. the episodes for this anime were nothing short of lacking in budget. So compared to some other OVAs, like the turnaround time on these was going to be a lot longer than some of the ones that you got during the 80s, which I might as well get into it right now then. Yeah, let me pull up the like all 7 episodes and their release dates, because I want you to you at home to see if you notice something odd that happens eventually. Okay, so like we said, episode 1, July 22nd, 92. Tragedy of Bosch Taro, our second episode, February 20th, 1993. You know, so it's like a little over 6 months, because the intent was, okay, we're going to try and get an episode out every 6 months, you know? And these are, of course, also episodes that are longer than what could fit into a half-hour time slot on TV. Like, these are meant to be almost like fit like the hour time slot, or in some cases, hour and a half if they're like very special. Then episode 3, August 20th, 1993, still kind of in that expected average. Episode 4, January 20th, 1994, little faster turnaround. Episode 5, October 21st, 1994. So basically taking about 3/4 of an entire year to come out at that point.
Jeez.
Episode 6, June 25th, 1995. About another rough 9 months or so. You know, I mean, whatever. They're putting their time into it. Episode 7, January 25th, 1998.
Yeah, that's
2.5 fucking years having to wait for your finale. Can't imagine what that's like.
God, that must have been fucking excruciating.
If you couldn't tell by like why I was making that particular example, is that like for something this ambitious and high budget, as the old adage says, no plan survives contact with the enemy. Like, the same applies to any sort of like production schedule. This was a long work, even though we all have the benefit of being able to watch all 7 episodes at once and have it not feel like that there was a long wait in between each one.
Yeah.
Like there were definitely concerns regarding, you know, like how the budget was shaking out by the end, the fact that Imagawa was also working on other projects at this time, as well as, you know, plenty of the other staff at the time. You know, I mean, like G Gundam was 1994. Like, that like man was taking on like quite a lot of work continuing this passion project while also creating like you know, the first alternate universe Gundam, you know, a project that also does not have its own share of, you know, like high expectations or anything, I say sarcastically.
I feel like the only thing that comes close to production and doesn't even like scratch the same amount of time is Hellsing Ultimate, but that was like 5 or 6 years or something.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up as well, where I feel like that was like the more modern equivalent of that kind of production, where it was like that was Madhouse that worked on it, right?
That was Madhouse. It was like 2006 to like 2012.
Yeah, that's like the other one that like I remember like hearing plenty of talks about, where it was like people anxiously waiting for like the next episode and like being so high on it just because like the production quality on it was like staggering for the time.
Yeah, like here's the other thing about like these episodes is that these are not just like 20-minute episodes. They're like 50 or 40-minute episodes. They're long.
Oh, yeah.
And they're lavishly produced.
Definitely. Even when you get to like, you know, some episodes, they'll probably spend a bit more time than you would usually expect doing a recap. But that's largely because of the fact that, you know, they were planning these episodes to be released 6 months apart from each other. And I guess they weren't expecting people to be like, oh, a new episode's out? Quick, let me rewatch the previous one so I can get back up to speed.
I'm going to watch the entire series to watch the finale now that it's been like 3 years.
I mean, after 2.5 years, you might as well.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I would be curious, like, if time travel was even possible, even like in a hands-off way, just to get like a clear picture of what the past was like again. Just to like get like a view of like what I guess like what people were like thinking, or like just what the reception to each episode of Jai Robo was like as it was coming out throughout that entire decade.
Oh my god, and I realized like this is before like everything we know, so like how would you'd have to go out and buy the physical like discs, like the physical VHSs for these
or Laserdiscs,
or Laserdisc.
as I look to my bookshelf, because in my own indulgent hobbies, also get a hold of all 7 LDs.
Hell yes.
The cover arts are beautiful, I will say.
Oh, I bet they are. But yeah, like, not only that, but then you'd also, like, how do you know when an episode comes out? You just have to wait. Or, like, read in a magazine or look in a forum or something.
Yeah, like, the magazine, like, keep checking in with, like, the video store that you get your shit from to, like, get any news from, like, the store owners. Just, just all that stuff. It has been so long since we have ever, like, been in any sort of, like, proximity to, like, those kind of outlets anymore, now that we are so deep into the internet age.
Yeah.
But you want to know what's even wilder than
that?
these episodes' entire release schedules?
What's that?
Apparently Imagawa is definitely the type of creator that loves to think bigger and bigger, even if it's not going to, like, be produced in any way, like in a product, because the story that was told with this OVA was only the penultimate chapter of a multi-part epic that spanned, like, 7 whole chapters.
Imagawa, you fucking madman. What are you cooking? Why? Why did you think?
I remember when Hideki Kamiya, like, after he had left Platinum and was, like, just kind of kept talking on occasion about, like basically kind of like the stories he thought of for, like, the entire Bayonetta series as well as Okami, because of this kind of leading up to him working on Okami 2, is how he, like, I think he said something about, like, he envisioned Bayonetta's, like, entire, like, saga as being, like, 9 chapters or some shit, and I'm like, all it did is remind me of, like, Imagawa's original plan for this. I'm like, this is just how these type of, like, artistic creators are.
Yeah,
this is just a certain brain disease that you have whenever you, like, have, like, the drive to, like, create works of art and tell stories to people.
Yeah, I still remember.
Although I think in Kamiya's case, I think he should have, like, let go of those story dreams because they are always bad in Bayonetta.
Oh, yeah.
But I digress. But I could at least say what the names of, like, the remaining 6 chapters were. Like, you know, the 5 that would have preceded Giant Robo, and then the name of the last chapter that would have followed after it. Because they are some pretty fantastic names that show that, oh yeah, this OVA also being called The Day the Earth Stood Still is really fitting. Because we have the birth of Zangetsu the Midday, the plan to assassinate Daisaku, the Canary Penitentiary, the Boy of 3 Days, the greatest battle in history, General Kanshin versus Shokatsu Kome, the boy detective Kindaichi Shotaro, a name that is clearly supposed to be like a modification of Tensujin 28's protagonist, Kaneda Shotaro. And, you know, those first 5 were all like the ones that would precede Giant Robo. And then the last one, the Siege of Babel. Presumably, I guess, like, would be the big climactic battle of, like, this entire ensemble cast of heroes and villains. It is wild. Unfortunately, I am not able to get that much more details as far as what they are, because it's like, it has been so scattered all over the internet, and some of it on websites so old that it is like Google's algorithm has made sure that it's been buried completely. Thanks, big tech, you fucks.
I would love to have, like, I don't know, like, design notes or whatever, like, plot synopsis they had planned for these, but we'll never know.
Until someone just, like, comes out in the open and has, like, you know, the actual files on, like, something that won't just disappear and be like, hey, this is what it was. It was from a random art book or some shit. It's like, oh, sweet. Yeah, but it is one of those things where, again, especially because these days, you know, Yasuhiro Imagawa has not been in the director's seat of an anime for some time now. Not really, you know, just out of the limelight in general.
Yeah,
you know, since the early 2010s, it's like there's never any chance of this coming back, especially when Yokoyama has long since passed away.
Yeah, and
I recall that, like, around the time, like, shortly after that he had died, his estate apparently was being very, very greedy, I would say, as far as, like, how much money they were wanting for, like, other people to, like, license out their works after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're familiar with your history of the Super Robot Wars series, you know, getting our quota met for this episode.
Yep.
It was going to originally be a major part of the Super Robot Wars Alpha sub-series.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why it got excised from like Alpha 2 and 3, because the Yokoyama estate was just asking for way too much money than Bam Presto was wanting to pay. But it's fine because we got Gal Gaigar in its place instead.
I mean, that's a good trade-off. But that explains why Giant Robo never came back. It almost felt like a series that would be, I wouldn't call it a staple, but something that would just pop up.
Yeah, like there was a 2007 TV anime, as well as like a manga written by Imagawa that was like an alternate take on the same setting called The Day the Earth Burned. But it's like, I think those were only able to like work as the exception just because it's like, I imagine the estate had like a better hopes of like putting their money towards like a medium that they were probably more familiar with than like these newfangled video games.
Probably, yeah.
Probably easier to just like give permission for like a new manga or an anime. But even then, I don't think either of those really did much to like keep the flame alive anyway. So it is basically back to just being like, just like a product of the old era of anime.
Yeah.
Both old eras of anime, I am going to say.
So why don't we get into the primary mecha of this show?
Yeah, just keep things rolling along and get into just talking about the big robot itself. There's plenty of other robots that do show up that Giant Robo gets to fight, as you would expect. Plenty of their designs obviously coming from, I guess, this was like the other thing. Obviously, they could not use like the actual human characters from like the Giant Robo series, but from like the manga and live action. But that obviously does not stop them from still bringing back designs from like Tenshin 28 or even the original Giant Robo itself. Giant Robo stands out among all of them, not only for its strength, but also because it has definitely like the biggest glow up in like updating a classic design for, the then current era of the 1990s.
Yeah.
Because Giant Robo is like a pale blue robot with like a head, gives off like Egyptian pharaoh vibes. Like it's the kind of like headpiece that you would expect in like Ancient Egypt. But like the thing that you can tell when you look at Giant Robo is that like its proportions are so 1-to-1 with that of the type of live action full body suit that someone would be wearing for a TV show. It's the sort of thing where you look back on it, and this kind of falls into like the same issue as well when you look at the designs for like the Tenshin 28 robots, is that with how early it was in the history of manga, like historically important as they are, the designs and how they're drawn can come off like pretty silly.
Yeah, it just looks like a man in a suit. That's the vibe it comes off with it.
With a very human looking face that is unchanging. It has it's not just eye lenses that it has. They are literally like human like eyes with like the pupils and everything.
It just looks really goofy, and it's like, I bet it probably works better in like a manga or like even like a live action, but I can't imagine if they went with this design for like the OVA.
For something where like animation quality and practices and art styles had changed so radically in like 2 decades plus. Which is why Giant Robo is like the thickest boy.
He's so thick. Bro just got out of the gym. Just look at those quads. Look at those shoulders.
I think you're almost like selling the wrong picture of it. I don't think it's a case where like he got swole as like in the traditional bodybuilder sense.
No.
I think Giant Robo found like the mecha equivalent of like a Chanko like restaurant and just prepared himself for sumo training.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's the physique that I get out of this chonky boy.
You're right. That's more appropriate. He's big and chonky. He's got like a lot more weight on him. He looks like he's going to fuck you up.
Yeah, the body is round, the shoulder pauldrons and like the gauntlets are massive. Like the legs are big as well. Like the only thing, like the one aspect that you could say has not really changed much in size, and I think is what makes the design work, is the head itself. Like it is relatively small compared to how enlarged everything else is. What you get is this giant robot with a very human face, even still, but with like chonky proportions and heavy weapons to boot. This thing is a goddamn war machine.
And he looks way more intimidating too now, like with the fucking design. And even like the way the head looks with the kind of realistic eyes work a lot better.
Yeah, like it is really good, especially when you can see all like the finer details on it, like the fact that it's kind of running along like the cheek, where I guess like the cheeks would be like on a face, like that kind of vertical line that Araki loved to accentuate so much with a lot of early JoJo characters.
Yeah,
is how it's like you could see what look like like handrails of like a ladder along there.
Yeah,
which is always like a cool detail to kind of highlight that this is still the classic, like, pre-Mazinger style robot where there is no cockpit.
Yeah.
It is a remote-controlled, semi-sentient robot that, of course, its commander, if it wants to ride on its shoulder or anything like that, those ladder bars running along its face are a good way to hold on as it is fucking shit up.
Yeah, which definitely, like, oh yeah, they were thinking about this design. They were also thinking about how someone would ride this robot in a non-traditional way, I guess.
Yeah, because you could have Giant Robo just hold like its commander in its open hand. It does that at times, but that's not really practical when you're in the middle of a battle, because that means you're one arm short in a fight. So yeah, that's how you're able to kind of justify like the really cool image, I would say, that I think Tetsujin 28 and not even the OG Giant Robo really like delved into this idea. I do think this was kind of like the first time we saw the idea of like, I guess another way of, quote, riding your giant robot, even though there is no cockpit, just standing on the shoulder with it, and it just makes like the bond between human and robot in battle feel that much stronger.
It really does, yeah.
It also has giant fucking rocket-sized boosters on its back, because, of course, with how heavy this thing is, you gotta get it to, like, at least somehow fly to its location.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these are, like, the most heavy-duty rocket engines strapped to his back, which also double, if need be, as deployable missiles. Yeah. Because fuck you and your other robots.
Just in case you think he doesn't have any more armaments, he's got something that's a movement option and an attack option at the same time.
Yeah, the boosters are their weapons as well, on top of all like the embedded machine guns it has all over its body. It's like, oh man, this is the sort of thing where it's like, again, calling back to the Big O episode that we did a couple weeks ago, you can absolutely see how it is like, it is so obvious why Katayama was able to take the inspiration from his time working on Giant Robo to make the Big O what it is. Because even though Big O is a pilotable robot, like these two are definitely like of a similar class. It's great.
It's great, yeah.
Yeah. As far as any other mecha, I mean, like that's really the only proper like super robot of note that is kind of worth mentioning. Again, there's a lot of other like robots of the BF group that you see show up every now and then, but they get trampled on. The only other one I guess you could call a mecha, even though it's more of just a floating object, is the Eye of Vogler, which is I guess the pretty much like the vehicle of our main antagonist when you get to see him. Is just like a monstrous giant black sphere that can open to reveal an eyeball. A design that, like, I can't help but feel might have potentially led people at HAL Laboratory to get the inspiration for Zero Two in the Kirby series.
Oh, yeah.
Assuming I got the name right.
Yeah.
I forget. I'm not a lore head about your fucking pink puffball, like, video game series. So I'm going based off of my limited memory. Regardless, it's a striking image, to say the least. That it's like, this is your antagonist mecha, and it doesn't even need to fight with arms and legs. Instead, it just drains the power and energy of everything that it comes into contact with.
Also, fun fact, if you were like me and got the DVD box set years ago, I'm talking about years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It comes in a box that's shaped just like the Eye of Volgar. You open it up and like the actual sets are inside. And I still have that sitting on my shelf even now.
Oh, man. As someone that owns all 7 laser discs, that is like the first thing to actually make me feel jealous.
I'm never getting rid of that thing.
Oh, never. Always keep that close to your chest. That sounds like a treasure.
You were saying?
But that's at least like the mecha that we really have to talk about. We've got the titular robot itself, and basically like the looming like mechanical antagonist that I guess we'll call it.
Yeah.
Like it is a threat that is ever persistent and is going to take a lot of effort from our heroes to be able to take down. Heroes such as those in the International Police Organization. So we make a smooth transition into our primary character section.
Yeah.
So we got the boy that is in charge of the most powerful robot on Earth, Daisaku Kusama. More interesting tidbits I can give as far as like, I guess like what knowledge I have of like previous iterations of Giant Robo prior to this OVA, because I have read the first few chapters of the manga, like at least as far as like what I was able to find that was translated. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to kind of like look at Daisaku's character, where it feels like it's meant to be something of the in-between of the manga version of Daisaku and the live-action tokusatsu version. Because in the manga, he was always like, I guess like the intent, and probably this is where some of the conflict, I guess, initially came in the production of the Giant Robo manga and not wanting to just do Tetsujin 28 again, is that Daisaku's much closer to being like a young adult in the manga. He's not the young boy detective like Shotaro is. Whereas I think when the tokusatsu show came around, it was like, I think that version of Daisaku was just straight up a kid. Because they just felt like audiences would get that a lot more easily as a show that is clearly like the OG Robot Tetsujin 28.
Right.
So Daisaku ends up being like basically kind of like right at that like at that early age of adolescence. Like he's a 12-year-old boy, dresses like Shotaro, admittedly, but again he's quite a few years older than even Shotaro was in his story. So like he has that right level of immaturity and like bright-eyed idealness where it is like he is able to, I guess, like comprehend like to like somewhat like the larger like stakes in the world that are going on, considering that he is part of the IPO's Experts of Justice, but he still has a lot of that childlike innocence to him, which makes it work. It makes it work for the sake of the story, as like, this is the character you, the audience, are meant to identify with, because going into this story for the first time, like, you are being hit with so many characters that all know a lot more about the history of things than you do. Yeah. And that there's a lot hidden under the surface that understandably Daisaku does not have any understanding of. But at least, like, regardless of like age difference and obviously the fact that he is a character working with a bunch of superhumans, Giant Robo's origins are actually still very close to what it was like in the original series anyway, where Giant Robo was a robot originally being produced by Big Fire itself, before Daisaku ended up in a situation where he managed to take control of it before it could be registered to, like, one of like the higher ups in Big Fire itself. Yeah. Of his in the OVA continuity specifically, it is his dad which worked on it, which I guess is another tie into Tetsujin 28, because that was also the origin of that particular robot and why it has like that particular bond with its human. But yes, Daisaku is basically inseparable from Giant Robo. Yeah, like it was the final legacy of his father entrusted to him, and it basically amounts to being his own superpower in the Experts of Justice. Yeah. Everyone else has their own crazy abilities, while he is like the normal one, with his superpower being completely externalized. Yeah. And if he's in danger, oh boy, best hope you're not around Giant Robo when that happens. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Also, one thing I'll say about Daisaku is I feel like he also kind of works as an audience surrogate, because he's also learning about things in the world and also like about the backgrounds like we are. And like, he's a kid who's kind of been dumped into a very like dire situation. Well, not dire situation, but you know what I mean? Like, he's put like with the giant responsibility, and he has to learn about everything as he goes, like we are along with him.
Just kind of learning about, just how difficult it really is to like to create an ideal world without, just trampling over like, the happiness of others in order to get there.
Yeah.
But again, because of Daisaku's role, he is a member of the Experts of Justice within the IPO. There are plenty of people that he works with. One of them that is also a very important main character is Ginrei. Aside from the fact that she is a woman, like her other personal details are basically classified and not really on the record. Like she is a member of the Experts of Justice. Often is always seen like in a very fancy Chinese dress. I know that like I forget which manga it is, but like I mean, as you would imagine, she is also a character that is adapted from an earlier Yokoyama manga sorts. I can at least say with the majority of the Experts of Justice, most of those characters all come from a manga retelling of like one of the 4 pillars of like ancient Chinese literature called the Water Margin, which lines up with the fact that like most everyone in the Experts of Justice that Daisaku works with has like a very overt like Chinese character designs to them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense considering what we got.
Yeah, but Ginrei, her importance comes from the fact that like her power is one of those very risky and dangerous types because it also has like a negative effect on her physical being. Like she can teleport herself and other objects into other places, but it's meant to be used as a last resort because of like the physical toll it puts on her. Though, as we see in like one later episode, you find that like when she does decide to use it on another person, it's a pretty horrifying fate, put simply.
Yeah, it kind of is.
But like she's like one of the other like younger members of the Experts of Justice and has like a fondness for Daisaku. A fondness that I'd say is very much like, again, because we don't know anything about the age, I'm going to assume that the age gap is such that it is nothing problematic and she is not an adult.
Yes.
Admittedly, it comes off more as like, well, I mean, because you could especially hear it in the Japanese script and like when she says, she calls herself One-san when like kind of like in the context of like, her and Daisaku.
Yeah.
Because even though there's the obvious romantic tension, part of it still, I think, is like initially more of like a, just wanting to be a big sister figure for this kid who is like, the youngest in an entire group of grown-ups that have their own dirty secrets and just trying to make sure it's just like, hey, at least let this kid still retain some of his innocence.
Yeah, that's how I'm gonna read a lot of it, because otherwise,
I agree. I think everyone should do the same.
Yeah, don't read any more into it, please.
Yeah, let's not turn that into that one fucking meme of like the teenage girl like slowly like walking behind like the elementary school boy, and then like as he tries to run faster, she is also matching pace.
Yeah. Let's not. Let's not go there.
Yeah. Although I guess if I were to suggest an edit of that, how about have the final panel like just have giant Robo's fist coming from out of frame just to knock this shit off?
Oh my god. That's one way to do it. Just have the giant robot. Just say no to that.
Say no to pedophilia. Moving on. Those are like the main 2 characters that I want to get into detail with for the IPO. I mean, like I know there's obviously other characters in the Experts of Justice, as well as like a subgroup within them called the Big 9. For most of them, they are not appearing in this anime because they are just kind of scattered all over the world.
Yeah.
And the nature of like what goes down in the plot basically causing a massive energy crisis, like throws a lot of their ranks in disarray that they're not able to mobilize, which is good for the sake of the plot, because if they did, oh boy, this would have been over by like episode 2.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason why they're all not here, because then it would just be not much of a show.
Yeah, like we only get to see 2 of them that are like present as part of like the Peking branch in the Experts of Justice. One of them being Taiso, and then the other is Chief Chujo, who's like, like the one in charge of them all. Like, just to quickly read off the names of the remaining 7. There is Kanshin, who is supposed to be kind of like the grand strategist of the group, which kind of leads to the idea that it's like, if they were able to mobilize, Kanshin would have like figured it out in an instant as far as what to do.
Yeah.
The rest are Dick Maki, which I don't know, but again, it's tickling the immature parts of my brain whenever I just see it. Yeah. I know it's terrible.
Yeah.
But then there's Rinchu, Otsuka, which is in reference to the chief of police Otsuka from Tetsujin 28 Go. Again, further showing that, this is this anime is also still going to make use of Tetsujin 28 characters, even if they can't use OG Giant Robo characters. And then Tendo, Kagemaru, which is just a ninja, and I love it because its name is fucking Kagemaru. And Genyosai. Yeah, there was, I guess, like a former member as well that like kind of predated them before stepping down called Thundering Fire Shinmei, but that's basically about it. Like, all you really have to, anything else to learn about them, you're going to have to like hunt down like the most obscure of supplementary materials, because again, they're like, all you really know when watching the OVA is that they exist, and you only see like the smallest glimpse of like their ranks.
Yeah.
At least with our opposing side, Big Fire, you get to be familiar with a lot more of them, in fact.
Yeah.
But one of them, our core antagonist for this particular story, is Genya, a more recent member of Big Fire, not part of like these super higher ups, but he is the one that ends up being the one in charge of Big Fire's latest scheme called the Still Earth Operation, where because of humanity putting all of its stocks into the Shizuma Drive for its energy needs, Genya is putting forth a plan to like release a device that will go around the world and basically render all Shizuma Drives inert, putting the fear of God in humanity as they lose all electricity and technology. That in theory, that'll make things easy for the rest of Big Fire to accomplish their goals of world conquest. But it kind of is not as simple as that. Genya has like his own personal reasons behind doing this, and the fact that like that he apparently gets like tacit approval from like the absolute higher ups of the organization kind of causes some schisms with like other members, such as one of the standout members of Big Fire's Magnificent 10, the inspiration for the character Slayer from Guilty Gear, Alberto the Shockwave.
Oh my god, just look at Slayer, look at Alberto, it's the same character. It just might as well taken the same character here.
They got the fancy mustache, the cigar, the monocle, the dapper suit. Because that's one thing you'll notice with the vast majority of members in Big Fire. Snazzy dress code.
Yeah,
it's part of the law. If you're going to be on the path of world conquest. Yeah, but I fucking love Alberto. Again, as like a contrast to the fact that Genya is like a mid-rank member of seniority in Big Fire at best, and yet he is given like full control of this current operation. Whereas Alberto, you can tell, is a character of much higher importance and is clearly like even more ride or die for everything that Big Fire represents.
Yeah.
And also, if you wanted like another detail that highlights, just how awesome this guy is, his voice actor is shared with Master Asia. You can hear it in his tone and inflection. It is so it is so exact.
You actually
which
hear
works well considering that he is a fucking superhuman that can just go around and just produce, true to his name, produce shockwaves from like just like casting out his hand or throwing punches. It's great. The other members of the Magnificent 10 are great as well, and it's like, even though they're not as important to the main plot, you at least get to see them on screen more often than the Big Nine, which we can also say what their names are, which I guess also should highlight that with the Magnificent 10 in question, two things. One, I guess at the time of the OVA, it would be more accurate to say that they're the Magnificent 9, because they're technically down one member because he got fucking killed. But then there are like two other main named characters that are of a rank even higher than this group. You would think that they're like a cabal that act as the leaders, but no, they're still under Big Fire, the leader himself, and a man named Shokatsu Kome, which is, it's just Zhuge Liang from Romance of the Three Kingdoms, but also, like everyone else in Big Fire, has a snazzy dress suit. He has the fucking feather fan it's so on the nose because it's like it's using the Japanese version of like what the name Zhuge Liang I think would translate to if you wrote it in Japanese.
Yeah.
But the other magnificent members are Dark Messiah Hanzui, Zangetsu the Midday. You know, that name probably sounds familiar if you looked at the the names of the unproduced chapters. Old Man Kawarazaki, Mask the Red, who is just a ninja.
Just a ninja.
Yeah, which I think some notes, like some character or production notes, implied that there would have been either before or after this OVA, like a big battle that would have involved Mask the Red squaring off against Kagemaru, which, as a fan of classic ninjas, fuck yes.
Hell yeah, that would have been sweet.
Dazzling Cervantes, who is not appearing in this OVA because he is the one that got killed in the backstory. Which is a shame, too, because he's got a pretty cool design as well.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen his design, but I'll look it up later.
It's during the backstory of when Daisaku, like, gets Giant Robo.
Oh, right.
Because, like,
yes.
Yeah, with the kind of, like, the Middle Eastern kind of, like,
yeah,
like, headpiece or whatever. Forgetting the name of it specifically. I don't want to say something that comes off, like, culturally insensitive because I don't know anything. But it's that look with, like, the... Yeah. With like that headpiece and the shades.
Yeah.
But then the remainders are Descendant Lord Doki, Jujoji, Yuki the Twilight, and Fabulous Fitzgerald.
Fabulous Fitzgerald is my favorite name.
Yeah,
it's such a good name.
It is a name that I kind of put in the same category as the likes of Captain Marvelous from Gokaiger.
Yeah.
Fantastic names for a fantastic group of villains that are, like, canonically stronger than any average experts of justice, that the only things that are genuinely a match for them are members of the Big Nine.
Yeah.
So that shows the scope of this story, that in this battle between good and evil, both sides have hierarchy in terms of power levels.
And you're going to see a lot of that.
Those are our characters. The briefest glimpse that we could give of all of our characters, really.
We're not going...
There's so many.
Yeah, we're not going one by one.
Too many, in fact.
Yeah, if we go one by one, we'll be here for 3 hours.
So we might as well move things along. Why do we recommend Giant Robo?
Yeah, why do we recommend this?
Like, okay, describing Giant Robo is one of those tasks that, like, at times feels impossible. Like, it goes... because this kind of gets into why, like... mecha fans love this anime, but also even people that aren't into mecha end up loving it, like, all the same. And becomes even harder, I feel like, to really give people, like, a detailed sense of what it's about. Because it is so many things at once. It is a raging whirlwind of retrofuturism, wuxia, operatic drama, and characters that span the entire legacy of, like, this one mangaka. Like, when you describe it all, the fact that the driving force behind it is a super robot seems almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, again, we have to keep emphasizing, Giant Robo is very important to this particular story. It would not be named after him if it wasn't.
It is almost it is almost, I guess, in a way, a superhero show as well. And it's got so many different elements mixed together. It's kind of crazy.
To the point where I've definitely opted at times where, while I would otherwise try and, like, describe things about other shows I would recommend to people, Giant Robo is one of those where, like, 9 times out of 10, I just default to saying, just watch it. Because you kind of just need to, like, just let it take over you. Because to say anything else about it would almost come off making you sound like a crazy person.
Okay, I have a brief confession here, though, before we get any further. So I remember years ago, this is when I was, like, let's say in my teens, and people were recommending this anime. They didn't explain much other than it was, like, a really good mecha anime. So when I got it and I watched it, I was so lost. For reasons we will get into later, I thought I was missing an entire series.
We're not kidding about Imagawa, like, originally coming up with an entire 7-part saga, and that this is only part 6.
Yeah. It wasn't until, like, I just said, okay, fuck it, I'm just gonna let it just go along with it, I guess, and then obsess about it later.
The true obsession only kicks in after you have reached the end of that final episode, and you're sitting there going, oh God, I get it.
Yeah.
yeah, this anime still to this day in a lot of ways embodies like just the idea for me of don't explain shit, just get them to watch it and just like take it in as it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of antithetical to a lot of what we do on the show. So we tried to do our best in describing things, but I'll at least say that like the other major reason that you should watch it anyway is for the historical importance of it all.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know what it is about you. Like, would you say this is your favorite of Imagawa's like super robot anime?
No, I'd still say it's Shin Mazinger.
Okay, we're both the same on that then. Yeah, where it's like, this isn't our personal favorite, even though it's still high up there. What matters more is that it is like the most culturally and historically important, I think.
Yeah.
Because for Imagawa's career, this was the first thing he directed and wrote at once. It's like the biggest like representation of like his storytelling and directing sensibilities, like the kind of tales that he wants to tell, and how like you watch this, especially if you decide to end up watching this, you know, after you've seen some of his other works afterwards, like G Gundam or Shin Mazinger Z or Tetsujin 28 Go, you know, the 2004 anime. Like, if you watch those and then go straight to Giant Robo, everything about those later works immediately makes more sense.
Yeah, it'll be like, oh, this is where it all came from, actually. Yeah.
He's like, oh, you literally did the all-star cast for Shin Mazinger Z again because you did it here first.
Yeah.
And it worked both times.
It sure did.
And I guess this one I can definitely say personally, it's like, you know, because of just how long this anime was worked on, you know, encompassing most of the 90s, I would go as far as to say that this is the true defining anime of that decade. Certainly more than that other anime that you probably know, the one that I am inferring. I know, that might sound blasphemous for a lot of people.
I'm just pointing at the screen and just pointing at you, the viewer, or the listener, and be like, you know the one.
When this started and when it ended, and how it's like, even before it was completed, you were still seeing the seeds of inspiration that were being sowed in other works that would like come out like either near the end of its runtime or like immediately after.
Yeah. Also, I just want to say another thing about this being such a large production is this OVA is kind of gorgeous. Just the way it looks, the art, the backgrounds, the way everything, the lighting and the coloring, and even some of the animation is just beautiful. It is like animators working in their A game the entire time.
The fact that this started in the early 90s, it is still kind of wild to me that like this anime was basically able to like carry on, I guess, like the high budget spirit of the bubble economy during the 80s.
Yeah.
Even though the rest of the country had basically fallen into a recession. Thank God, like that was not going to stop this anime at all. I mean, it took a long time to finish, but they got there. And what's more important is that we are not waiting for 1998 to roll around.
Yeah.
You know? Although maybe I wish we could go back to 1998 as we currently are. I don't know. Anything to get out of this time zone or time period. But whatever. At least it's perfectly fine. Like, watching it now, it is 7 episodes that is well worth the time and investment. It is great. So where to watch it then?
Where to watch it?
Well, physical media is secured thanks to Discotech.
Also, you might have to pay a bit, but it's almost like the price of a video game, I guess, in a way. But
yeah, and probably I would say of more importance than like most $70 video games today.
Yeah, but I'd say like if you can find it, you can probably still find it cheap, or it's like thanks to Discotech.
Yeah, because otherwise, streaming options are not available, so sail the high seas, as always. And the same also applies to a spin-off OVA series called Ginrei, which was directed by staff members other than Imagawa, as like a way to like, I guess this was part of the way to like kind of help people like be more patient as the wait time between episodes was getting longer as it got near the finish line. Because Ginrei was, I guess, like a series of like 3 short OVAs that are, you know, it is very much a spin-off. It is not like filling in the details for the story. It's basically just an excuse for like comedy shenanigans with the characters.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, even though I know it exists, I had never watched it at all because I somehow got it in my head that it was possibly more obscure and harder to find than the original OVA. But it turns out, no. It had been translated and up on the internet for like decades at this point.
Oh, wow.
I did watch the first episode actually for earlier this week. Giant Robo having a giant robot-sized nosebleed of gasoline is a sight.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Also, apparently Ginrei's exploits include everything from like busting up a church run by Big Fire in order to convert members to its cause, to marrying the Crown Prince of England.
Jesus Christ. They just do anything in that movie. Nobody's stopping them.
Yeah. Same rules as far as like where you could get. Ginrei applies as well, is basically the same as the main OVA. Like physical options are provided by Discotech and no official streaming options are available. Like not as important as the main OVA that we're talking about, but it's still like a nice funny bonus if that's your thing.
Yeah. Well, but now it's time for us to actually get into the meat of the series by talking about the first 2 episodes of the show.
Yeah. Because of how narrative focused this is, there was no way we could have done a highlight discussion of like completely disparate episodes.
Yeah.
So we're just focusing. We're just gonna start from the very beginning. So either stick around to hear us kind of explain the like the glorious like madness that happens, or do the right thing, stop this podcast and go watch Giant Robo the animation.
Just go watch it. Just go watch it if you haven't.
Yeah. All right, let's see. We'll see you on the other side.
See you, everyone.
Hail, Big Fire! Allegiance or death!
Big Fire!
Like, this is one of those anime that, like, as you might imagine, was early enough to have gotten one of those, like, real shoddy, like English dubs from, like, the late 90s and early 2000s. And it's like, yeah, it's bad, but I guess this ties into like the start of our first episode where we get, the opening that we're going to be seeing for pretty much every episode from here on, which is so memorable. Like a fantastic way of setting the mood for the story that you're going to get into.
Yeah.
And it's what I describe as the one part of the English dub that's allowed to be good in its own right. Because the narrator does a good job, like giving like the same introductory speech with like really good localization, and that is where the Hail Big Fire comes from. Like in Japan, like the original Japanese is everything for Big Fire, but with this being like an evil organization that have their own like Nazi-esque hand salutes, I think it makes more sense for them to go all in on such an evil like swearing an oath that goes Hail Big Fire, allegiance or death.
I think that works a little better. It fits them for sure. There is, oh my god, like this intro, like fucking crams so much information, but they do it. I think one thing I found while I was like rewatching it is like, oh, they're actually doing a really good job of making it digestible. Like it's kind of just catches you up to speed with things and doesn't make you feel too lost. It gives the impression that an entire like series of events happened and you're just now now we're just dealing with all those events.
Like this is an ongoing battle of good versus evil.
Yeah.
And you don't need to take the time to like be sat down and have their origin stories all explained to you individually.
Yeah.
It's like if we just went straight to Infinity War or some shit and we're just like, fuck it. All that other shit doesn't matter right now.
Yeah.
This is the crisis. But after that glorious intro with like with the super triumphant music and like cool shots of the experts of justice, the giant robots, everything. Not even a minute after, we are getting hit with all the stylings that are so defining of Giant Robo and like the kind of influences that it is taking from like, I'm not even going to specify it as being like which decade it's all pulling from, because I feel like it's more than one. I think it's more accurate to say that like this is pulling from like every manner of like tropes and like narrative conventions that were prevalent in like any media or entertainment that came out during the Showa era. Which we all know kind of spanned like several decades prior to this. because we got overbearing orchestral music inside a gothic castle as a thunderstorm rages outside, where our villains are having a conversation about these mysterious attaché cases and how important they are.
It definitely sets the mood that these are villains, all right, especially when they're sitting at the longest table in like the fucking world.
Yeah, let's just have our villain hide out in Dracula's castle. He won't mind. Interesting thing too about the attaché case, since this is episode 1, the black attaché case. This was a rather kind of cute detail that I remember hearing Imagawa explain about this particular like kind of plot detail and the idea behind it. And it stems from kind of one of those things where it's like when you're a kid and like if you see something, even if it is something like kind of mundane or not really like seemingly that important, like kind of like the imagination in your brain might cook up something that makes that particular thing seem more scary than it is. And for him, it was the idea of like a mysterious person carrying around a black attaché case, and how it's like, they would, to be all mysterious, they would open it up to see what's inside, but you wouldn't be able to see what it is. And he always assumed, as when he was a young kid and saw that like in, like in stories or whatever, that it was like the case was carrying something super scary. And considering what they are actually carrying, I totally understand where that like childlike fear came from.
I get that.
Because the villains are after these things.
Oh, yeah.
There is one more they need, and it is in the hands of one Professor Shizuma, the creator of the Shizuma Drive. Just to like change gears super rapidly from this very villainous meeting in a gothic castle, we go straight to an action scene atop a speeding train going through Nanking, as where like it is literally on top of the train. Professor Shizuma is like about to be shot by like by a member of Big Fire that is coming to take the attaché case. Oh man, like again, this was talking about how this is like homaging everything that ever existed during the Showa era, because of you see like not just the retro-futurist like aesthetics and vibes, but also like stuff that you would see in any old movie or like pulp radio drama or serial of that time. Like this is the start of an Indiana Jones movie or something, or a Bond movie.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. That's how it feels. We go straight into the action, especially.
Yeah, and it just goes from there, because like as it looks like Shizuma is about to get shot, we get a visit from Q before he eventually made his debut in Third Strike.
Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if like they saw this design and they're like, let's make a character out of that too.
It is already well known that anime has a profound effect and influence on the design of fighting game characters.
Yeah, it's all over.
We have Stroheim to thank for Guile, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, there's lots of JoJo influences if you want to go down that rabbit hole, which I sure did as a lover of fighting games and anime. We
all did.
Yeah.
Yeah, this action scene goes off the rails because our Q lookalike comes in to save Shizuma, pulls off the entire disguise to reveal that it's actually Ginrei.
Yeah.
And she will never use that disguise again. It was just to make a cool entrance. As she jumps to like a neighboring train, Tetsugu about thinking that he's going to catch Ginrei, but no, she lands on her feet and he ends up catching the professor instead. We're already getting a sense of like these two characters' dynamics because Ginrei is very confident and professional. Tetsugu is like a very big, boisterous oaf who kind of has like a chip on his shoulder about like not only seeing this mission through, but also trying to make sure that he shows off how cool he is to Ginrei.
Yeah,
which again goes a bit crazy, kind of fucking things up that it almost ruins the train that they are on to try and escape.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive how much there is of the whole like showing, don't telling kind of thing going on, because it's like, oh, you already understand what these characters are about, what their personalities are like, just from these little interactions and like moments with each other.
And the climax of this opening action sequence is the real hero making his giant metal entrance. like the train that they're on, the tracks are heading towards like a drawbridge that has been raised, and they are like going over it. Looks like they're about to fall right into the river before a boat right underneath like just shoots out a giant blue metal hand to catch them, and we get, oh man, like it is highlighting just how big and imposing Giant Robo is in its first introduction.
Yeah.
Daisaku standing on its shoulders, giving it commands, and just absolutely dismantling the train robot that has been chasing them after retrieving the professor.
Mm-hmm.
Like by the time you get through the end of this sequence, like these first 10 minutes, you know without a doubt that you are seeing peak.
Yeah. Like, oh shit, okay, I'm locked in now. I want to see where this is going. Holy shit, this rules.
Few anime can ever make a first impression as strong as this. Like, this is an elite class of like of just selling you on the thing that you are going to watch.
Yeah.
But like as you'd imagine, it can't be action all the time. We gotta scale things back now that we have already established, like kind of the giving you the hints of what the villains are plotting, and had our real hero make his entrance and like kind of demonstrate why Giant Robo is the strongest robot on Earth. Now we jump to Paris, where we get to see like another villain, and as one of the experts of justice is investigating a bunch of scientists hanging from the bells of Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, this is one of those details where, because I had watched the first episode's dub long ago, I vividly remember the weird idea that the dubbing team got to give Kenji Murasame a French accent entirely on the assumption that they thought that Paris was his home turf.
That is so weird. Like, fucking just giving him a French accent just because of that.
His name is Kenji Murasame. He's a renowned Frenchman with a Japanese name who is also a character from Tetsujin 28 originally. But it's so silly that it's like, yeah, when you watch the dub, that like it'd be so bad if you were watching it dubbed first instead of the original, because it would probably distract you from the fact that it's like, bro, he is seeing what looks like the ghost of like an old scientist that was believed to have like died in a tragedy like years ago, and is now responsible for this calamity taking place in Paris right now as a fucking blackout occurs, and like in the center of Paris is like a unnatural like geological formation has occurred. Like an unnatural mountain has just erupted out of the center of the city while everyone else has lost power. We're getting now into the exposition about the Shizuma Drive and setting the stage for the crisis that is soon to come from the world's over-reliance on this particular energy source. The tragedy of Bashtarl.
Oh, we're going to hear a lot about that in these upcoming episodes.
Oh, yeah. Because afterwards you do get back to the Peking branch of the experts of justice after Daisaku hands in like the attaché case to Chief Chujo and Professor Go, and like they're having a discussion without Daisaku present for obvious reasons about like the incident that happened in Paris, and the fact that like a lot of what's happening seems to be linked currently to like the Shizuma drives, and worrying that ghosts of the past are about to make their return. But at least some light moments in between the exposition. I do appreciate the detail that because of the current energy situation of the world and how absolutely gigantic Giant Robo is, that they do something good with like a decommissioned nuclear power plant and just use it as a giant robot hangar.
Hell yeah.
It also may or may not be a hint as to Giant Robo's true nature, but whatever.
Yeah, it might also be that, like a small hint to that.
But we at least get to see that the rest of the experts of justice do not have time for Tetsugyu trying to beef with a child.
It's like, bro, what are you trying to do? Come the fuck up. It's a kid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, everything to do with Tetsugyu is like just highlighting how much he is like really trying to show off how cool he is. That like it is that feeling of being like, oh, because of the fact that like they have like a kid on board, like there's that feeling of being like, oh great, we're having to babysit this kid now, and somehow he's super important, without kind of realizing, eventually it being explained to him by his older brother, that there's a very good reason for kind of like why Daisaku is part of the team and his importance in it all. But yeah, we get a lot of like the character interactions that highlight that these adults, that they are not so pure and like good role models that Daisaku should be looking up to, especially when they're trying to like pull him in so many different ways. Like Tetsugu trying to beef with him, his older brother Taiso. I don't want to make like comparisons to say if it's more dicey than Ginrei getting close to Daisaku, but like clearly trying to invite him to a place where they could just get cronked.
I think that's also very like, you probably shouldn't do that for a literal child. You probably shouldn't get them drunk.
Oh God! I'm just remembering the first episode of Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, where the episode where it's about the custody of Johnny Quest.
Yeah,
and it's like he's at the bar with Harvey. The bartender pours them all like cups of scotch, and he's like, "Stan, they're 11, right?" And then he just puts a cherry in the scotch. Like that's enough. I imagine that's what Taiso would have done.
That's what he's thinking. You know, he would absolutely do that.
That said, kind of as we're getting near the end of like all the exposition about the Shizuma Drive, interspersed with like talk about the tragedy of Bosch-Tarl, we really did not make like a warning about this in the non-spoiler section, but we might as well say it now. This anime can be a harsh reminder that this was an era in history where rapid strobe lighting in anime was seen as perfectly normal.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like, I forgot about this.
It's mostly like black and white colors, but no, just black and white. Like there is no color in them. Mm-hmm. That it's like, it doesn't bother me. I mean, like I've had years of playing light gun games, the traditional light gun games to get used to it. But it's enough to be like, that if this somehow someone decided to like rebroadcast this on TV as like a TV special or something, like, because I've seen this with modern anime today, where even though the source scene is made with very bright colors, just for safety's sake, they will always darken specific scenes, like just like lower the tint across the board. I feel like that's the only way you could ever do it, because it's like, I do think, as harsh it can be for certain viewers that are sensitive, it is pretty fucking effective at showing like what the tragedy was like at the ground floor as people remember it. As Baron von Fogler, one of the scientists, is like trying to do like a premature test of the Shizuma Drive in order to like get the technological breakthrough they need, while everyone is like, he's a madman, stop him! Ties in as well with cutting back to Genya, because apparently like the entire tragedy is something that he was having a dream of. Because we've seen Genya during this episode as part of the scheming. He's the one in charge of the Still Earth operation, and even though like the third attaché case is not in their hands, he's still going to go through with like kind of moving up like the current phase of his plan anyway. Whereas and until like those plans are ready to go into motion, Alberto and his personal assistant Ivan are going to head to Peking personally, as well as Koen Shaku, a mysterious like suit of armor. That's what I call it, because there is like no real way to know if there is even a person inside that thing.
Yeah.
It is just always standing there and being very creepy.
It's like, is it a person? Is it just armor? Who knows? Well, we know it.
Yeah. The three of them are basically going to be enough to try and reclaim the third attaché case and take Shizuma's life as well to finish the job. So, yeah, like after the middle portion, like being this kind of like low calm point where we get a proper explanation of the Shizuma Drive and, what everyone remembers the tragedy of Bosch-Tarl as being, the action picks up again. Like, because like nothing says going into overdrive quite like having the villain show up on your fucking doorstep to like cause some shit. Like Ivan is not there currently. He's got another task, but it's currently Alberto and Koen Shaku just making a mess of things at the Peking headquarters of the Experts of Justice. Everyone's trying to do their best to stop it, but they've literally got no chance against a member of the Magnificent 10. Even though it's like, I think some of them are even like using like the motorized cranes that they use like in like kind of one of the maintenance yards. It's like, okay, I appreciate the gung-ho nature, but it's like, bro, that that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's kind of like a robot, but it's not the robot.
It's definitely not the, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, as this is happening, like, Taiso and Tetsugu are taking quite a while to show up because they were too busy getting drunk, like, at a restaurant, like, earlier on, which was where they had their little talk about, Taiso trying to explain to his little brother, like, the reason why Daisaku is part of the team, and that it's like, it's our job to make sure that, that this kid can still, like, grow up into a proper adult, despite everything that he has to deal with, being in charge of the most powerful robot in history. But they do eventually show up. It's a pretty triumphant big damn hero entrance that leads into, like, the first of, like, the truly hype, human battles, I will call them, since they're not robots. I mean, technically, I would say they're not human either, considering their insane inhuman abilities. But it's Taiso versus Alberto. The significance, obviously, being, we've got a member of the Big Nine and the Magnificent Ten squaring off. Yeah. And best of all, Taiso is the member of the Big Nine that fucking killed Cervantes in the backstory.
Yeah, so there's some history there, and this is like where the wusha comes in.
They are jumping and flying all over the fucking place. I do love the warm-up as well, where Taiso, like, true to him being a fucking drunkard all so much of the time, takes his gourd of alcohol, it looks like he's about to drink it, but spits it onto his fucking fists to give them power.
Yeah.
Man, like, just the aura on these motherfuckers. It is so good. Like, I already mentioned this much with Alberto obviously being an influence for, like, Slayer and Guilty Gear, and how there's, like, anime in general, like, character designs from there often find their way being the inspiration for fighting game characters.
Yeah.
But it's like, forget inspiring other characters, like, the members of, like, these two factions, except for Daisaku, need to be in their own fucking fighting game.
Oh my god, like, I was just, when you mentioned that, I was like, oh my god, this is the roster. This is the perfect roster for a fighting game right here. Everyone's just like a super powered badass with, like, their own style and everything. And it's like, oh man, Arxis, get on that. Arxis, go back in time and make a fucking giant Robo fighting game.
Make a giant Robo fighting game, and, like, make sure that the team that made the Fist of the North Star fighting game are on it. I want some fucking infinites.
I want some basketball combos. Please, just bounce.
Yes. I want a side tourney at EVO with this fucking game that will incentivize people that are on the receiving end of a combo to pay the other person to stop.
Yeah.
I am never going to forget that Hokuto no Ken side tourney. That shit was hilarious.
My favorite part is when somebody was getting infinite and the other guy was just taking a selfie while it was happening and posting on Twitter.
Yeah. I get fighting games are bigger than they've ever been. But we can't forget our roots.
No.
Sometimes you just need some honest-to-God kusoge in your life.
The kusoge are the soul of fighting games.
Damn fucking straight. But we're near the end of the first episode. Taiso and Alberto are having the fight of the episode, obviously. But Professor Shizuma has been evacuated, along with Tetsugu, Ginrei, Professor Go, and, of course, Daisaku. Least of all because I think Shizuma considering that he's been in a very bad mental state this entire time, seems really only able to trust Daisaku because of, like, I guess the courage and fortitude he's able to have as, a 12-year-old boy. But if you thought they were going to get away scot-free, remember that Alberto's personal, like, bodyguard assistant, Ivan, he's still around, and he makes his entrance with a BF robot, Uranus.
Yeah,
that's the name.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess technically Uranus, if we want to go more accurate translation, but whatever. It's like just a big floating robot that looks like an urn. That technically, its head, I guess, in a sense, they did this before Megas XLR. The head is technically a car.
I guess it is. Just, I guess.
Yeah. It detaches. It could be used as a car. It could even be used as, like, a submarine, because that's definitely what happens later. But yeah, regardless, Ivan shows up to cut them off at the pass and, like, blows up the road, sending the car and everyone flying, putting Daisaku in mortal danger that we have one mega pissed off giant Robo heading their way.
Oh, yeah.
What an end to the episode is you see it fly to the camera and you get that still frame right before it says to be continued.
And then imagine having to wait 6 months for the next episode.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, whatever. I imagine, like, again, like 6 months was the original plan before it eventually became, 9 months, and then 2.5 years.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
It was simpler times and assumptions back then.
Yeah. Good thing you, the viewer, and us don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah, we could go straight into episode 2, in which the first 10 minutes are basically going to be taken up by recap. But I guess to speed along that, I guess before the OP plays, is that you get like Vogler's speech. Like, you got snippets of it during the earlier, like, flashbacks to the tragedy of Bosch-Tarl, but it decides to open on, like, a very, like, I mean, it still plays the OP like normal afterwards, but it decides to set the mood as we're getting closer to our main crisis. Like, what Vogler was getting at prior to initiating the tragedy of Bosch-Tarl that wiped a small country off the face of the earth. Mm-hmm. Like, because, like, it's the black and white imagery, the powerful speech, and, like, the operatic music playing in the background that it hits you in ways that at times, especially for me can often feel indescribable. Like, you just have to experience it in order to get kind of like what sort of feelings and emotions it's trying to get at. Yeah,
you just have to experience it yourself.
But when the OP does play again, you get to see one thing that does update over time, like with this particular sequence, and that is whenever it shows that the various robots of Big Fire that are like attacking the world, is that they eventually keep cycling them out as each episode goes on. So you get to see, not only more designs that hail from the original Giant Robo, but also Tetsugen 28 Go, because you get to see Black Ox. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I also appreciate the Black Ox reference.
And then after that, like we said, it's just a 10-minute or so recap of what happened in the last episode, because the idea was that you would have waited 6 months for this. But we at least, once that is all out of the way and we're back to the present, we get to have more characters, like, kind of making their intro. Like, Taiso and Alberto's fight is still going on, with Taiso kind of on the ropes now. But the experts of justice finally get reinforcements.
Oh my god.
Dojin Issei and Yoshi, the latter being Taiso's wife.
Yeah,
I will say. And,
holy shit, man.
Man, he scored a good one.
Fucking dead. Oh my god. Yeah. This entire intro is so good.
These two, they do not need to be members of the Big Nine to leave such a huge impression on you, as Yoshi is just rushing into Peking like on horseback, jumping off of cars and rooftops, and it's revealed, Dojin Issei is a shape-shifting monk, so he was the horse the whole time.
Yeah. I just want to say, like a couple of months ago, this clip was actually going around Twitter for a while, or like Blue Sky, just as people go using this scene as an example of A, how good Giant Robo is, and B, AI would never do something this fucking hype or good. And they're right.
Yeah, especially when you get the kanji written in the moonlight around Dojin Issei, which translates to villains deserve no mercy. Oh, yes.
So good. God damn, like the music, those animation, everything about it is just chef's kiss.
10 out of 10. No notes. They managed to save Taiso, and use like enough of like their sorcery to kind of like push Alberto and Ko and Shaku back, mainly because they're like, Ivan's on the scene where the Black Attaché case is. Our job is done. Later, fuckers.
Yeah.
So we go back to Daisaku's location, kind of the first to wake up, as Ivan is standing very menacingly over him, and Robo finally arrives to unload everything it has got on the BF robot. But because of its powerful energy barrier it has, it should be noted, like with Robo coming this way, Daisaku did not give the orders specifically. This is Robo like acting on its own because if Daisaku is at any point in mortal danger, like he has basically like an auto guard circuit that makes it where his priority is to protect him at all costs. Even though he kind of goes overboard and does not know any sort of self-restraint, because Robo's actively hurting itself as it tries to get past this barrier to Daisaku, that it's like, that it basically takes Daisaku having to calm Robo down and tell him to just stop, because it's not going to work if it ends up like hurting him. For a robot that has an unchanging expression, there are moments where they're really able to like find ways to convey that the robot has some feeling of emotion or pain. Yeah, it's like the way that its eyes like kind of like turn like bloodshot red, like just kind of signifying that it's really hurts.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to show like this is like a character himself. Like it's a live in a way. It's kind of like almost a living being, or at least something close to that.
And when you consider that this was made by Daisaku's dad, I guess it's no wonder that like his father's legacy would also want to make sure that he is safe, just like his dad would. But it's still a pretty rough time, because like Daisaku, no matter with him being an expert of justice, you always have to remember that he is still just a kid, and seeing him in danger like this, even though Robo is so close and can't do anything, is like, you can tell that he is very terrified, especially when Ivan is just like willing to like have him as a hostage, hold him at gunpoint, and brag to him about the real history of the world that Daisaku has no knowledge about, because he just decides to give his own like more detailed explanation of what happened in the tragedy of Bashtarl, and how it is like, it's the work of like the adults around you that are like keeping the truth from you. You know, just really trying to hammer in the despair to this fucking kid.
Just unloading a lot on the kid, and also on us, the audience.
Yeah, and it also, I guess, makes sense why Ivan would be in on this plan anyway, considering it to basically reenact, I guess, the plan, the tragedy of Bashtarl, but on a global scale, because it's like fuck you, like my entire country got wiped off the map during that tragedy, but again, you people don't even think about it. So it's a running theme that you see with this show, just the idea of like the dirty secrets of the past, and like what people will try to cover up for the sake of like their ideal like present society or future, which is a thing that has clearly been at the center of Professor Shizuma being a complete mental wreck since we first saw him, because 10 years ever since that entire tragedy and being labeled as like a hero for the creation of the Shizuma drive, the guilt finally caught up with him, you know? It's not just the fact that, the big fire is after him. It's like, no, he knows that the ghosts of his past are coming back to haunt him. And like does not want he does not want to keep going through with this lie that in order to save everyone, least of all Daisaku, from like his current despair episode, he does something absolutely ballsy. He grabs what was from the attaché case, which all three of these cases, they held an experimental Shizuma drive that originated back to like, you know, the tragedy of Bashtarl, and were essentially the cause of that entire incident. That he takes it, jams it into the Shizuma drive receptacle of their car, and creates a blackout in the surrounding area of Peking, which obviously throws off everything in the city, but also disables the BF robot.
Yeah, I mean, like, whoops, but also, I guess it helped a little. It did, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it helped for them in the moment, as well as I think just to, I imagine he was thinking that he would at least still be able to do a bit more and kind of help, you know, explain to them like the real truth of the tragedy of Bashtarl before, you know, he gets shot after this. But you at least get to see that, you know, again, the surrounding area is now in a blackout, including the experts of Justice Base. So Taiso decides to turn himself into the human generator just so they can like get power back on and like reconnect with like their satellite feeds just to see what the hell is going on right now. There is nothing Taiso can't fucking do.
Apparently
I swear to God.
Not. Like he's a living generator is what I've learned from this.
Yeah, just grabbing all the fucking wires from the console and just using his own like energy to power it. Oh, God. It is such a shame what happens to him in a few episodes that he can't make it to the end. But you at least get to see basically kind of as this is all happening in China, remember, Genya is still moving forward with his part of the Still Earth operation. Kenji has been like investigating underneath like the unnatural like formation that has erupted in the center of Paris, like following the blackout, and finds, oh yeah, there's an entire BF lab in here with the monster sphere waiting to be unleashed, the Eye of Fogler, and he tries best as he can in a disguise to go and like grab the other two Shizuma drives from their receptacle, but his cover's blown and it gets out of the way, and Genya's like, all right, fuck it, it's 2 drives is good enough, we're gonna launch the sphere.
Yeah, whatever, let's just go with it. Just let him go, it's fine.
Yeah, it's pointless anyway. This thing is going to like make sure that the entire Earth is without power, just like what happened when the tragedy happened the first time, which that's the real thing the first thing that happened, and why this Still Earth operation is happening to begin with, is that when the tragedy happened that first time 10 years ago, literally all normal electronics were rendered inert.
Ugh.
So like this redo is to basically make sure that like all Shizuma drives are rendered inert in exactly the same way, that all kinds of like catastrophe and casualties take place, as like essentially multiple people's lifelines in this modern society are cut short.
Yeah.
That it's like, we're recording this near the end of the year 2025. This OVA is over 30 years old. Every time I go back to this, I still can't help but feel just that little bit of horror trying to imagine us going through a similar situation where like the world essentially just stops as a result of all electronics being just killed right on the spot, and is made even worse with just how dumb our world is today and the technology mishaps we've had now.
Yeah, so
that it's like those have all been like isolated cases. Imagine if that just happened to everything instantly.
Yeah, it would be horrifying to think about what would happen. It's like, oh no, that would be bad.
Yeah, and just also makes you reflect as well that it is like, this OVA always has its opening start with the words, in a future to come. And it's like, man, we're 30 years removed from this, and that future still hasn't come. I don't know how long we're going to keep waiting, or if we even should. But that depressing note aside, the sphere has been launched and is departed from Paris. The blackout in Peking is still operating. Because the Shizuma drive that the professor put that he activated is still going haywire. He gets shot by Ivan. Ginrei goes to take it out, which fortunately when she does that, it actually causes the drives themselves to like kind of start back up again. So it's not a complete destruction. But that's obviously where the Eye of Vogler is supposed to come in, because its particular power, since it has 2 of those Shizuma drives, is clearly meant to like, oh no, it's not just going to render them inert. It's going to make them unusable forever.
Yeah.
But hey, good news. Like even before that Shizuma drive gets deactivated, like we saw like when the BF robot, its energy field had dissipated, that Giant Robo had been knocked into the water, which made you think, well, oh no, like is Giant Robo down as well? Like, because everything runs on Shizuma drives. Nope. It gets back up. Like, even as the blackout is still happening, he gets up and is ready to fucking murder Ivan.
Oh, he is. This is where it's revealed that it is nuclear powered. It's not dependent on the Shizuma drive. And also it's really angry, like you said. It just keeps going at him.
Yeah. And even when power returns to the BF robot and tries to like make the fight a bit more even, Giant Robo is still like more than a match for it. That it pushes Ivan to like take the robot's head that we said was like detachable, could be used as a car, to make his escape. And even as he is escaping, Giant Robo swears he will never stop going in. Do not piss this guy off.
It even like tries to shoot it with like, it's the like machine gun things, and it's like, you really want him dead, huh?
Yeah, but alas, Ivan does manage to get away. Obviously, Daisaku is there to like give the order to just have Robo calm down, because it's like, it's all right. He's safe. He doesn't need to keep going this overboard So, because there are more important things right now. Professor Shizuma's been shot. He's like on death's door currently. And but like at least as Ivan and Alberto are making their escape, which I do love, where it is like, yeah, this shows that like their car/robot head is also a submarine. That not only does Alberto is swimming through the ocean and gets into it, but you do get to see. I appreciate the detail they put in of him, like trying to dry and straighten out his hair back into like its usual style after he's gone so wet, making it back in there. That you at least get as well, like the kind of further, a bit more backstory, before we get later in the OVA, before we get before they actually show us what happened where Daisaku was given control of Giant Robo. They talk about the fact that it was part of the GR project at Big Fire that was, eventually shelved, partly because of Daisaku's dad and what went on during that entire incident that killed Cervantes. But it's the sort of thing where they kind of realized, oh shit, that robot never did get outfitted with a Shizuma drive, That project was back during the time when we were still making these robots with fucking nuclear power.
Yeah.
So, yeah, now the villains understand as well that it's like, true to the fact that this OVA is called Giant Robo, no matter how many superhuman freaks on the side of good and evil are fighting each other, this is still a story where the responsibility of solving it is going to fall on Daisaku's shoulder, because his power is a robot that has its energy derived from a bygone era.
Yeah.
An era of energy that, because it's that one word, nuclear, it's enough to make people have pause and be like,
ooh,
oh shit, do we really want to like have this be our savior in this crisis?
Yeah.
Even though it's like, when you learn more about what the Shizuma drives actually are and what Fogler was trying to do, there is no perfect savior.
There is none. God, like we mentioned before, you mentioned like this is supposed to be like the penultimate like chapter of the story, and it feels like it. This entire OVA has the vibe of us watching the last arc of a long-running series, with just the way it escalates things. It's like, oh, we're getting ready for the final battle with the evil like organization, and it's like, and it just asking you, just go along with it. Don't worry about it. We'll fill in the blanks, but you're smart.
Like the whole point of the story feels very much like, it's building up to the greatest catastrophe that the experts of justice have had to contend with yet. Like a global blackout.
Oh, yeah.
That is looking to like recreate like a horrible tragedy that, eventually gave way to their, to their current, like energy revolution. You can tell by the end of the OVA that it's like, the true final battle of this saga is not at the end, obviously, because this is supposed to be the crisis that has enough of an impact that it even wears down the villains.
Yeah.
Because I was not kidding as well during our discussion of primary characters, that even members of the Magnificent 10, despite their pedigree within the organization, are not the ones in charge of this. It's entirely under the command of this rando who's not actually a rando, because he is the son of the man that quote-unquote caused the tragedy of Bosh-Taro. Basically, it's all just an act of revenge against the entire world for burying the truth. There is so much that gets unraveled in like the following 5 episodes after this that naturally, if you want to know like what else happens, go watch it. Though I will leave you with this. This one particular detail, because it was one thing I initially considered wanting to like talk about the episode where this is featured in, before realizing, both of us kind of understanding, hold on, this is so narrative focused that the one moment we are both thinking of is like near the end of the entire series.
Yep.
So we're just going to say what it is in isolation. Chucho the Silent, the chief that is in charge of the experts of justice in Peking. We mentioned as much that he's part of the Big Nine. The Big Nine, they all have like incredible powers that are able to make them a match for the Magnificent 10, if not outright overpower them. Like the fact that they are never able to be in the same battle at once is basically like kind of a convenience as part of the plot to make sure that, the story isn't over before it begins. Because you get to see why Chujo is part of the Big Nine. As normal of a man as he looks, he's got the most powerful punch of all. You see it near the end of episode 6, where, like, nothing has stopped the Eye of Fogler at all, that it's like, well, who can stop it? How about this chief who just goes out on foot, does a little bit of shadow boxing before unleashing the Big Bang Punch? This is where the name comes from if you are a fan of Shin Mazinger Z.
Also, I just want to say, we mentioned Slayer. They even gave Slayer a super that is just the Big Bang Punch.
Yes. The influence on the rest of Japanese pop culture from this anime cannot be understated.
It's a lot, yeah. You go back and watch like these anime, like this, like seminal classics like this, and then you think about the shows you enjoy or watch, and then you realize, oh wow, I see the influence that this show, something like Giant Robo had on the industry.
Like, its importance cannot be stated enough. And again, I said it at the beginning of this episode, it's still kind of wild to think about that we are choosing like this super important anime and not talking about it on the final episode of this podcast.
I know.
We got to wind down, obviously, even though this has been a fun time talking about this.
Yeah.
But we got to get ready, you know, like you listeners at home, got to be ready for our final 2 episodes, you know?
Yeah, final 2.
We got Space Runaway Ideon to talk about next week, and then our mystery final episode, which... We'll keep you guessing.
Keep you guessing on that one.
Or don't guess. Maybe. Who knows? I don't care.
Up to you.
Like, it'll probably still surprise you anyway, considering what we talk about and what we tend to be fond of the most.
Yeah. You'll be surprised when we get there, but yes.
So look forward to next week's episode about a merry robot anime that is all about protecting the universe and your neighborhood.
It'll be a fun time that will not be emotionally devastating in any kind of way.